Imagine being trapped 2,000 feet in the air on a rusty metal plate the size of a pizza box. These two friends climbed an abandoned radio tower for the thrill, but disaster strikes when the ladder completely collapses beneath them. Now, stranded with no signal, no water, and hungry vultures circling above, one wrong step means instant death. The story begins with a very scary scene high up on a steep mountain wall. Becky is a rock climber. She is climbing with her husband, Dan, and her best friend, Hunter. They are all experienced climbers who love adventure. They are joking and laughing as they pull themselves up the smooth rock. Everything seems happy and fun, but things go wrong very quickly. Dan reaches up to grab a hole in the rock to pull himself up. Suddenly, a large group of bats flies out of the hole. The bats scare Dan and he loses his grip. He slips and falls backward. The safety rope catches him, but he is dangling in the air. Becky screams and tries to help him. However, the metal anchor wedged into the rock to hold the rope is not strong enough. The weight is too much. The metal anchor pops out of the rock wall. Becky reaches out her hand to catch Dan, but she cannot reach him. Dan falls all the way down to the ground. Becky watches helplessly as her husband dies. This terrible moment changes her life forever. Almost 1 year passes. Becky is not the same person anymore. She is deeply depressed and very sad. She has stopped climbing and stopped living her life. She spends her days drinking too much alcohol and taking pills to numb her pain. Her apartment is messy and dark. She goes to a bar every night to drink alone. She keeps calling Dan's old phone number just to listen to his voice on the voicemail message. She cannot let him go. Her father, James, tries to help her. He comes to her apartment to take her home. He tells her that she needs to stop hurting herself. He tells her that Dan would want her to be happy. But Becky is angry. She yells at her father. She tells him that he never liked Dan anyway. She pushes her father away and chooses to be alone with her sadness. She is very close to giving up on life completely. Just when Becky is at her lowest point, her friend Hunter comes back to visit. Hunter has changed a lot since the accident. She is now a YouTuber and a social media star. She travels around the world doing dangerous stunts to get likes and views on the internet. Hunter wants to help Becky. She tells Becky that she needs to face her fear to get better. Hunter has a crazy idea. She wants them to climb the B67 TV tower. This is an old abandoned radio tower in the middle of the desert. It is 2,000 feet tall, twice as tall as the Eiffel Tower. Hunter says they should climb to the very top. She tells Becky to bring Dan's ashes, his remains, so she can spread them from the top of the tower. This will be a way to say goodbye to him finally. Becky is terrified and says no at first, but Hunter convinces her that this is the only way to heal. Finally, Becky agrees to go. The two friends drive out into the desert. The scenery changes from the city to dry, hot sand. They stop at a small diner to eat. At the diner, Hunter is filming herself for her fans. She talks about how life is short, so you have to live fully. While they are at the table, Hunter shows Becky a special trick. She unscrews a light bulb from a table lamp. She takes the charging cable for her phone and touches the metal ends to the electric socket inside the lamp. This charges the phone without a plug. This trick is very important for later in the story. They stay at a motel that night. Becky has a nightmare about Dan falling. She wakes up scared, but she decides to keep going. The next morning, they drive to the tower. It is huge and rusty, sticking straight up into the sky. The gate is locked, so they park the car and walk the rest of the way. When they get to the bottom of the tower, they see something gross. 2 large vultures are eating a dead animal. The birds hiss at the girls. It is a bad sign, like a warning that death is nearby. They start climbing. The tower is a metal triangle shape with a ladder inside it. As they climb higher, the wind gets louder. The tower is very old and not safe. The camera shows us that the screws and bolts holding the ladder are rusty. Every time the girls step, the bolts shake and become loose. They climb for a long time until they reach a small platform at 1,800 feet. The inside ladder stops here. To go to the very top, they must climb an outside ladder. This ladder is just a thin metal pole with pegs on it. It is very scary because there is nothing around them but air. Hunter goes first. She is brave and films herself hanging off the ladder with one hand. Becky is very scared, breathing hard, but she follows Hunter. Finally, they pull themselves up to the very top platform. It is a tiny metal grate, barely big enough for 2 people to sit on. At first, they celebrate. The view is amazing. They can see for miles. Hunter does some dangerous stunts, hanging off the edge to get a cool video. She tells Becky to do it too, to prove she is not afraid anymore. Becky is brave and does it. Then, Becky takes out the small bag with Dan's ashes. She cries as she throws the ashes into the wind. She says goodbye to her husband. She feels a little better, like a weight is lifted off her shoulders. But then, the disaster happens. Becky starts to climb down the ladder to go home. Suddenly, the rusty bolts break. The metal screeches and the entire ladder falls off the tower. Becky falls backward, but the safety rope tied to Hunter catches her. Hunter uses all her strength to pull Becky back up to the platform. Now they are in big trouble. The ladder is gone. Below them is just a smooth metal pole for 200 feet. They cannot climb down. Even worse, their backpack fell when the ladder broke. The backpack had their water and their drone in it. It landed on a satellite dish about 50 feet below them. They are trapped, 2,000 feet in the air with no food, no water, and no way down. They check their phones, but they have no signal because they are too high up. They need to get a message to the ground. They come up with a plan. They take one of Hunter's shoes, they put Hunter's phone inside the shoe and pat it with her bra to protect it. They drop the shoe off the side of the tower. They hope that when it hits the ground, the phone will get a signal and send a text message. They watch the shoe fall, but it doesn't work. The phone smashes or it just doesn't send the message. Night comes. It gets very cold. They see a light on the ground far below. It is a camping vehicle, an RV, with 2 men. Becky and Hunter scream for help, but they are too high up. The men cannot hear them. They find a small emergency box on the tower. Inside, they find a flare gun with only 1 flare. They wait for the men to come outside. Hunter shoots the flare. The men see it. They look up with a spotlight. The girls cheer, thinking they are saved. But the men are bad people. They see that the girls are stuck and that their car is empty. Instead of helping, they steal Hunter's car and drive away. The girls are devastated. The situation gets harder. While they are trying to sleep on the hard metal grate, Becky sees a tattoo on Hunter's foot. It says 143. Becky recognizes this. It was a code Dan used to tell Becky, "I love you." Becky asks Hunter about it. Hunter starts crying and admits the truth. She tells Becky that she had a secret relationship with Dan before Becky married him. They were in love for 4 months. This breaks Becky's heart. Her best friend betrayed her. They are angry at each other, but they have to stay together to survive. By the next day, they are very thirsty. The sun is hot and they are dehydrated. They look down at the satellite dish 50 feet below them. Their bag with the water and the drone is sitting there. Hunter decides she has to go get it. It is very dangerous. The safety rope is not long enough to reach the dish. Hunter has to unclip the rope and jump the last few feet. Hunter climbs down. She unhooks the rope and jumps. She lands on the dish. She grabs the bag. She ties the bag to the rope so that Becky can pull it up to the top platform. Then, Hunter tries to climb back up to the platform. She grabs the rope and starts climbing. She slips and almost falls, but she manages to pull herself back up to the platform. The girls drink the water and hug. They forgive each other because they might die soon. Now they have the drone. They want to fly it to the motel to send a note for help, but the drone battery is almost empty. Becky remembers the trick from the diner. She climbs up the very top light of the tower, the red light that warns airplanes. She unscrews the bulb. She uses her wedding ring to touch the wires and make a connection to charge the drone. It is very scary, but she sits there for hours until the drone is charged. They write a note that says "Help us" and attach it to the drone. They fly the drone toward the motel. It gets very close, but just as it is about to land, a truck drives by and hits the drone. The drone is destroyed. Becky loses all hope. She starts crying uncontrollably. Becky is extremely weak, thirsty, and tired. She turns to Hunter and offers her the last sip of water. Hunter looks at her and says, "I don't need it. I'm not really here." Suddenly, the movie shows us what is really happening. Becky is alone on the platform. We look down at the satellite dish below. Hunter's dead body is lying there. Hunter never climbed back up. When she slipped trying to get back on the rope, she fell and died. Becky has been hallucinating, imagining her friend the whole time. Her mind created a ghost of Hunter to keep her calm so she wouldn't give up. Becky wakes up from her trance. A vulture lands on her platform and starts biting her leg. Becky screams and grabs the bird. She knows she has to fight to live. She strangles the vulture and kills it. She is starving, so she eats the raw meat of the bird. This gives her just enough energy to try one last plan. She looks down at Hunter's body on the dish. She realizes she has one chance left. She needs to get her phone to the ground, but she doesn't have a shoe to protect it. She realizes she can use Hunter's body. Becky climbs down the rope to the dish. It smells terrible because Hunter has been dead for a while. Becky cries as she looks at her friend. She types a text message to her dad. "Help. Tower. Dad." She takes off Hunter's shoe and puts the phone inside it. Then she does something very gruesome. She pushes the shoe inside Hunter's body into a deep wound. She uses her friend's body as a cushion to protect the phone. Becky says she is sorry. Then she pushes Hunter's body off the edge of the dish. The body falls 1,800 feet. It hits the ground with a huge, loud thud. The impact is very hard, but the body protects the phone inside the shoe. The signal bars appear. The message sends. At the bottom of the tower, the sun is going down. Suddenly, we hear helicopters and sirens. The police and rescue teams arrive. Becky's dad, James, runs out of his car. He sees a black body bag being put into a van. He thinks it is Becky, and he looks devastated. But then he hears a voice. He looks over and sees Becky sitting in an ambulance. She is covered in dirt and blood, but she is alive. James runs to her. Becky stands up and hugs her father tightly. They cry together. Becky has survived the nightmare. She looks up at the giant tower one last time as the movie ends. She is finally safe on the ground.
Now that we're back on solid ground, click here to watch my recap of Don't Breathe. Trust me, the tension in that movie is on another level. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.